welcome back to our channel. The night air was thick with unease, as though the world itself sensed the collision of betrayals and desperation that would unfold before dawn. Kat moved with calculated precision, every nerve alive with the urgency of finding Chelsea. Somewhere, hidden away by Allison's cruelty, Chelsea's life balanced on the edge of annihilation. The city stretched before Kat like a labyrinth of shadows, and yet her heart pushed her forward, convinced that the faintest trail of whispers and half-seen figures would lead her to the truth. Chelsea's abduction had not been an accident, it was deliberate, orchestrated with surgical cruelty. Allison had chosen her victim carefully, weaving the disappearance into a trap designed to strip Kat of her resolve. The longer Chelsea remained in Allison's grip, the more dangerous the game became, for Allison thrived on control, manipulation, and the slow erosion of hope. As Kat pursued faint leads, searching abandoned warehouses and following coded messages left like breadcrumbs, a different storm brewed in the silence of another home. In that place of fragile trust and false comfort, Tomas and Eva had crossed a line that could never be erased. Their moment of weakness, wrapped in passion and betrayal, had detonated like a hidden mine beneath Kat's feet. The truth did not reveal itself all at once. It seeped through hushed laughter behind closed doors, through a misplaced article of clothing, through the lingering scent of something foreign in the air. By the time Kat stumbled across the evidence, her mind had already been shredded by worry for Chelsea. To discover betrayal at the very moment she needed loyalty most was not just a wound, it was devastation sculpted into flesh and bone. Tomas had always projected steadiness, a man anchored in reason even when chaos tore at the edges. Eva carried the charm of innocence laced with subtle defiance, someone who had long danced on the boundary between loyalty and selfish desire. Together, they had chosen indulgence over restraint, unaware or perhaps uncaring that their actions would ignite a firestorm in Kat's life. Kat's discovery struck like a blade. She saw not just betrayal but the collapse of every bond she had clung to in order to survive. She had fought so hard to keep her world from unraveling under Allison's threats, only to find her sanctuary poisoned from within. Every step toward Chelsea was now poisoned by images of Tomas's hands entangled with Eva's, by the thought of whispered breaths and stolen hours that had reduced her trust to ash. Allison, cunning as ever, sensed the fracture. Even from a distance, she knew how to exploit weakness. The abduction had never been about Chelsea alone, it was a performance, a stage upon which Kat would be forced to dance until her will shattered. The betrayal of Tomas and Eva was not orchestrated by Allison, but it served her purpose perfectly. She thrived on the cracks in her enemy's armor, slipping through them like smoke until resistance was impossible. Meanwhile, Chelsea endured her captivity in silence, bound and abandoned in a forgotten cellar that smelled of dust and rusted iron. The only light seeped through cracks above, falling in narrow beams that shifted with the passing hours. Though her spirit burned with defiance, her body betrayed her with trembling hands and shallow breaths. Every sound from above, the creak of a door, the shuffle of footsteps, tightened the coil of dread around her. Allison visited sparingly, each time delivering words meant to erode Chelsea's resolve, words that painted Kat not as savior but as destroyer. As Kat pieced together the truth of Tomas and Eva, she found herself torn between fury and sorrow. There was no time for confrontation, no time for unraveling the emotional snare that threatened to drag her under. Chelsea's life depended on her strength, and yet the betrayal followed her like a phantom, whispering doubts into her ear. Could she save someone she loved while the ground beneath her was quicksand? Could she confront Allison's cruelty while her own foundation collapsed? Tomas, for his part, began to unravel in silence. His guilt festered in sleepless nights, each memory of passion with Eva twisted into something monstrous. He feared Kat's discovery, yet some part of him knew it was inevitable. Eva, however, showed no such torment. Her resolve hardened as whispers spread. She convinced herself their act had been born of inevitability, that fate had tied her to Tomas in ways Kat could never understand. Where Tomas saw shame, Eva saw opportunity. The consequence of their night together began to bleed into every encounter. Glances lingered too long, excuses faltered under scrutiny, and the invisible line that once protected them was obliterated. The web tightened, and with each passing day, the silence between them became heavier than confession. Kat's world became a battlefield of divided fronts. On one side, Allison held Chelsea's life hostage, her manipulations growing more elaborate, her cruelty more refined. On the other, Tomas and Eva's betrayal burned like a constant wound. Even allies who claimed to stand beside her could no longer be trusted, for loyalty had become a commodity too rare to believe in. As tension escalated, Allison played her next move. A letter arrived for Kat, slipped beneath her door in the dead of night. The envelope was stark white, the words scrawled across it in bold ink, "Confess or she's gone." Inside lay a photograph of Chelsea, bound and defiant, her eyes blazing even as fear lingered at the edges. The message was clear: Kat's silence would cost Chelsea her life. The letter forced Kat into an impossible choice. To confess meant exposing herself to humiliation, to surrender to Allison's dominance. To resist meant gambling with Chelsea's life. The decision loomed like a blade suspended above her, ready to fall with merciless precision. Yet beneath the surface of despair, another plan began to form. Kat realized that Allison's control depended on secrecy, on shadows that concealed the truth. If Kat could turn the shadows into light, if she could expose not only Allison's crimes but also the betrayals within her own circle, perhaps she could regain control. But the cost of such exposure would be catastrophic. The world would see not just Allison's cruelty but also Tomas and Eva's sin. Families would fracture, alliances would crumble, and the fragile balance of power that kept everything in place would collapse. Kat's resolve hardened. To save Chelsea, she would have to risk everything, even if it meant burning down the last remnants of her life. The confrontation drew near like a storm gathering on the horizon. Allison prepared her final act. Tomas sank deeper into guilt, Eva sharpened her defiance, and Chelsea clung to hope with the last of her strength. Kat stood at the center, torn and bloodied by betrayal, yet unbroken. When the storm broke, it would not be mercy that followed. It would be reckoning. Subscribe and ring the bell to follow our channel to update the shocking and dramatic developments of this exciting ongoing film.